Hi, I'm Shane. Welcome to my channel where I help individuals and companies think through their toughest problems. Earlier, I made two videos that covered my experience at the London Business School, right? Going through a full-time MBA, how I ranked #1 in the class, my highlights, my regrets, lessons learned. This time, we're going to dive into the question of whether it's still worth it to apply to a top business school program today. And instead of just going off of my own thoughts, I actually asked 20 recent graduates within the last 6 years from schools like Stanford, Harvard, Columbia, Wharton, Booth, Berkeley, I'm missing a few, Kellogg, Tuck, INSEAD, and of course, the London Business School, LBS. So what I'm gonna cover today are the results of the survey, which basically asked what was before and after the MBA, what they were doing, the reasons for getting the MBA, their priorities, their top priorities, their secondary priorities. Then we're gonna walk through a mind map with a decision-making tree based on their responses, as well as analyze some of the other factors like cost and alternatives to a full-time MBA. All right, we got a lot to cover. Let's hit it. First, we're gonna go through transitions, what they were doing before and after the MBA. So these are all of the responses that I got, and I categorized them into tech, consulting, finance, and industry. These are the 4 major categories. And then in the post-MBA, we have the same thing, basically tech, finance, and entrepreneur. What's really interesting here is to note that industry and consulting basically disappeared from this relatively small sample set. But still, most people, actually a lot of people transitioned from consulting industry into tech, to the extent that tech now makes up more than 2/3 of the post-MBA breakup, right? And this is a trend that I definitely saw in my days at LBS, where when I organized the LBS Hackathon, and that was the reason why I won the Bain Impact Award, which is given to the student with the most impact, it was because the hackathon's event attracted the London startup and tech talent into the school, right? Which really progressed the school's agendas as well as what the students wanted, which was moving into emerging, or now actually pretty mature and very large and lucrative industry that is tech, because it's very high paying and it's very intellectual stimulating and attracts a lot of very smart people, right? In that sense, this trend makes a lot of sense. And a lot of ex-consultants have either become their own CEOs or moved into the strategy side of things within tech firms. Finance is still there, but it is decreasing in terms of the number of people going into it. Again, tech also attracts a lot of finance people, right? And some of the finance people actually go into, let's say, a venture capitalist role, which I've actually categorized it as tech as well. And then finally, we have a small number of entrepreneurs, literally just 2 out of the sample set. One of them launched his own brand in the mobile accessory space, like chargers, batteries. Another one became an author, right? So really interesting paths. The other reason why that's important is if you're coming from a technology background and going to MBA, you can expect to be pretty popular, right? A lot of your classmates are still looking into transitioning into the technology sector. So there's gonna be a lot of interest. You can expect a lot of coffee chats, for example, right? When I was in LBS, I got coffee chats all the time with my classmates who were interested in Niantic and Google, working for startups, what was VC like. A lot of that happened, and I was able to give a lot of advice. And in business school, with life too, right? Often, you gain more than what you give in a lot of ways, especially when you give generously in terms of your advice and your time and bringing people together. So that's the thing I would recommend, which is if you are coming from a tech background, say yes to a lot of these things and help some people out. The fact that I have helped the student body in that respect actually opened up a lot of doors from both, getting into product as well as VC, right? These are the things that you actually have to be in the know about these opportunities, as well as demonstrate your value publicly. So that's a great way to do it. So now we're moving into the reasons for the MBA. And this one was a lot more diverse, right? But I was able to narrow it down to a first priority and second priority pie chart. And this is essentially, broken down into career change, exploration, location change, the network, promotion. And it's very interesting to see that the top priorities is career change, which makes a lot of sense. A lot of people go into the MBA in order to do a switch, like a hard reset of sorts, right? You could, for example, change location, go from Europe, Asia, South America, Africa, over to the United States, North America, right? We see a lot of that, especially in the American schools, where afterwards, a lot of the MBAs will try to get jobs either in San Francisco or New York, East Coast, West Coast, and get sponsored essentially by the employers. And that's a good way of actually establishing in the US, especially in the tech sector. Exploration is next. A lot of times, if you're not super pressed from the professional side, right, it becomes almost like a 2-year vacation or exploration, depending on how you look at it. For me, it was definitely exploration. Even though I didn't move away from the tech sector, I still explored new roles within that industry, right? Exploration is a huge part of it. We covered location change, network. The network is pretty important, but that actually becomes more of a secondary, interesting enough, right? Which kind of shows me that the network is still super important, but it's not as important as career change and exploration. The other thing about network for me personally is that one of the questions I asked is, are you still leveraging the network, the business school network? And most people said yes. Actually 90% plus said yes. And I have to agree, because my last 3 jobs at 2 startups and 1 venture capital firm was all a result of connections through LBS. And then you have exploration and career change, which still remain a pretty large part of it. Like about half the people are there for those, even for secondary reasons. Finally, promotion. It's interesting that promotion didn't show up in the top priority and it showed up in the secondary. I have a theory, right? Which is the MBA is no longer as necessary to get ahead in terms of promotions as before. And the only professions that I know of that still really honor the MBA as a way to get to promotion or get into the next stages and get promoted is banking and consulting, right? As we saw above, is that consulting is kind of going down in favor of tech. And also finance is decreasing in terms of the number of people going back to it or going into it, which means that these professions are now disappearing that really require that for promotions, and that's probably why promotion is such a lower priority these days. Now that we have a good grasp on the background of our MBAs, where they came from, where are they today, why they went to business school, let's try to answer a question for you. Is the MBA from a top business school right for you? For that one, let's go to this tab. And that's exactly what I asked. It was like, would you recommend anyone apply to a full-time MBA now, right? Assuming that COVID isn't shutting everything down. And the answer was yes, 100% yes. But then I asked, why yes and why not? Well, this is where it gets interesting, right? It's really not black and white. So let's go over to my mind map that I made based on the responses. And it's trying to answer a question, is MBA for you? Well, the first sentiment is that it depends. What do we mean by depends? Well, it's not for everyone. I can't stress how important it is to find the right MBA program and understand your why and decide to apply. And then another one is like a maybe. I'm very, very cautious when recommending an MBA. It really depends on the functional role, again, what you're looking for, your incentives are. And then we've got yes, if they know what they want to do. Well, that's kind of tricky because a lot of people go into MBAs for exploration. So you may not actually know what you want to do, but I think it also has to do with what you want to get out of it, right? That's a little bit different than trying to know exactly what you want to do after the MBA. But you should have a good sense of, do you want to be proactive? Are you optimizing social? Are you optimizing grades? Or is it extracurriculars and experience, right? And then finally, we've got, well, it depends on analysis of their career goals and priorities. So this is a more analytical, structured approach, which I actually really like. Speaking of structure, I made a decision-making tree based on the feedback of our MBAs. So let's take a look. The major nodes are career and personal, right? And this is like the most common metric to look at because it should follow either professional or personal, right? For me personally, it was like 80% personal and then 20% career. And then the third one is FOMO, fear of missing out, but no clear goals, right? So right off the bat, that is an immediate no. So if you go in an MBA that is not career or personal, but you just feel like you're kind of missing out and everybody else is doing it, that is, or without actually, thinking about exactly what you want your approach to MBA and what you want to get out of it, then it's going to be a no. And I tend to agree with their responses. So let's take a look at career and personal. What goes into these, right? I'm going to expand this guy out fully. So under career, we've got requirements for career progression. So this is the promotion aspect of it, right? And that is what I mentioned about consulting and banking. If you're going to be in those industries or roles, then yes, it definitely does help to have MBA. So it should be a yes. Exploration of new fields. You don't know what you don't know, right? So if you're coming from tech and you don't know anything about, let's say, the nonprofit sector or investments, right, or finance, then this is a great time to actually, talk to professions in that field who are related to the school. They will have events and recruiting sessions. There's a whole infrastructure that is set up for exploration of new fields and new roles. We've got career switch, which is, again, a triple jump. Is it a triple jump of location, industry, and role, or is it one or two of these, right? And then we've got alumni network. So the feedback from them was, well, you can't beat the top tier school as a career springboard. Coming from a humble background, your network can't help you the way a business school network can. So these two are really different, right? One is you're kind of like springboarding off of into a new career. So it's just like everybody kind of you can't approach MBA actually as a blank slate, right? When you go in front of recruiters and stuff, hiring managers, they will look at you almost kind of like forgiving you for whatever past you have, right? If you're an auditor, you can switch over to banking if you wanted to, or consulting, or into tech, right? As long as you know how to interview and tell the stories. So that's why it acts as a springboard. The other one is coming from a humble background. So if you're, just been working in industry, working in like professions that really don't open up your network, well, dang, this will kind of open up the floodgates in a lot of ways, right? My last 3 jobs, right? This is my feedback. My last 3 jobs have literally just been a product of my MBA. Like either they've been connected. So as a VC, it was through a LBS classmate intro. The head of product position was the LBS alum, was the CEO. And finally, my last job at Sturfy was through an LBS alum who was the VC, the venture capitalist who invested in Sturfy, right? So everything's connected. In that sense, if what you're going into the MBA for any of these reasons, promotion, exploration, career switch, alumni network, right, then the answer will be yes, right? That is great reasons for it. And then let's take a look at personal. Personal is going to be interesting because I've got some hilarious ones, which is actually really realistic. There's finding a partner. We have an inside joke, which is, you're getting an MBA, of course, through business school, but, you're also seeing if you can get a MR or basically MRS, right? A degree as well. So it's a dual degree. Anyways, it could be an MR degree also. That happens a lot, right? People actually do find their matches and get married through the MBA. You're also going through a lot, and it's like builds camaraderie and connection. Have fun and make new friends. Yes, it's actually great. However, what the commonality that I see on a lot of the feedback isn't just about having fun and just, new friends. There's definitely that, right? But I think there is like a development of these soft skills, which in STEM, right, in the sciences and engineering and medicine, it's kind of looked more down upon. Not down, but it's not as emphasized, right? Because it's more driven by the hard sciences, what I call steel. However, the soft skills or silver, these skills are the ones that really help leading organizations. And this is kind of what the MBA is really for. What having fun and making new friends actually helps you do also is navigating interpersonal relationships. They're pretty complex because think about it, you're not just friends, you're also classmates. You also have like a professional stake, right, in essentially the relationships. You don't want to be completely an asshole to everybody, and that's going to ruin your relationship with everybody. It's very interesting. You're navigating kind of like a thin line of sorts between authenticity, being foolish, or versus being wise, as well as preserving goodwill and relations with everybody too. These are pretty complex, and they actually do help with understanding kind of how the world works too within organizations and companies, which then leads us to the personal growth and learning opportunities, right? Which I think is divided between exposure and challenges. What I mean by exposure is that it's like, different places, different people, scenarios, cities, businesses, and cultures. LBS, especially for me, was just like going to Star Trek Central, right? It's just almost like I can't recognize half the languages being spoken. Everybody's super diverse in a lot of ways. And I'm exposed to new business models, like the European way of doing business, right? Or the Asia way of doing business. These are different realities. So that exposure is really, really good, just even for personal growth too, right? Obviously helps with the professional. And then you got challenges. I have a saying, which is, constraints make us stronger, right? And with business school, the biggest constraint is actually your time, right? You can't be everywhere at once, and it's a buffet. It truly is like a buffet where, you're being fed. You have so many options, but you have to prioritize either social. Is it school? Is it extracurriculars? Is it recruiting? Is it running meetups in the city? Is it actually even exploring and traveling, right? Exploring London or whatever city that you're going to be in. So I think time management is key, essentially, and that's actually what MBA forces you to do. Obviously, you can learn time management, people and stuff outside of it, but it really does help to have that environment, almost pressure cooker environment, to force you into things. Leadership, managing stakeholders and teams. If you take on any kind of leadership position in clubs or conferences, and there's gonna be so many opportunities to lead, right? Then you're gonna have to be managing stakeholders. It's key. When I pitched the LBS Hackathon, it was such a novel thing for a standalone business school. I pitched the professors, the entrepreneurship heads, basically faculty and students, right? Like kind of rally everybody around. So, and then it's like promoting it, selling it, getting sponsorships, fundraising, as well as managing the team, right? It was like running a startup for 6 months, multiple times. And that really does give you that hands-on experience of taking it into the next level, into corporate and stuff, right? It's just really good opportunities to grow and practice. Making impact. Yeah, community and organization, for sure. So it's almost kind of like, when I entered the MBA, I had a lot of these like lofty goals about community building and making an impact. These are the things that, if you're able to cultivate and foster, you can actually, it'll tell you what kind of company that you should look for after the MBA, right? You're looking for that kind of degree of motivation. So in a lot of ways, making an impact and seeing the feedback loop close. Again, often our growth is coming from closing feedback loops. That's the only way we can learn. When you start a project, MBA gives you the opportunity, actually necessity of closing within 3 months, right? Let's say you're doing a big ass conference for like 500 people, right? You got about max 6 months to plan for that. Great. So it's a time scaled, it will close regardless of what happens. It's gonna go on, the show will go on. What that means is that you'll definitely learn. If it went bad, you'll know what went wrong, right? If it went well, then you know what works. So the MBA gives you these rapid opportunities for rapid feedback loop closing and development, which then grows your confidence. That's actually what's really important, which is closing feedback loops, especially successful ones, will actually increase your confidence. Confidence is like a general superpower that you can basically take to anything else, whether it's personal or professional, right? It allows you to go into new situations more comfortably, as well as think, a little bit holistically as well, based on kind of your previous experiences. But really, it determines how well and not how well. Nobody can guarantee the outcome of when you take risks, but it will determine how you approach and how often you take risks. Long story short, making an impact, leadership opportunities, time management, super, super important, right? Oh man, and stress management, because when you have so many constraints, so many goals and leadership opportunities and have a lot of, people riding on you, these responsibilities, it's gonna be freaking stressful. Really, I half joke when people ask me like, what is the biggest thing that I gained from the MBA? It's stress management, right? Not only that, not just managing it, but actually increases your threshold for stress. So even though you're just organizing an event for 500 people or something, when you're in it, you feel like it's the most important freaking thing in the world. And then your blood is boiling, things always go wrong, right? You come up with contingencies. So when you have these competing priorities of classes, clubs, treks, social, city life, and then on top of that, large scale stuff that people are relying on you, those are the moments you either sink or swim. But being able to do that in a petri dish or a microcosm of an MBA actually mitigates the risk of failure, if you think about it, right? Not so much is at stake, not millions of dollars, for example, is at stake, but you can take the same confidence, the same lessons, and apply it to a much larger setting because you've already psychologically done it before. Again, the microcosm effect, the testing, the stress management, these are the things that really make a difference. So those are the personal reasons, right? As exposure and challenges you're looking for, then by all means do the MBA. For me personally, it was 80% personal and 20% professional. So it still remains one of the most formative years of my life, right? So if that's what you're looking for, then 100% yes. I would like to end with a few comments because I've been talking for a while. So for someone in their 20s, mid-20s, to take time off to self-discover and develop soft management skills. Mid-20s, 100% yes, right? Because I entered into MBA when I was 26. I know a lot of American schools are kind of like mid to late 20s. The European school is a little bit older, late 20s to early 30s, right? But regardless, it is a good time to just self-reflect and discover what you like, what you don't. I still have friends who say that the MBA was their freest time, that they were the most themselves because they didn't have the work obligations. They didn't have the judgment of the professional component. They could actually be themselves. And that's such a rare opportunity in our kind of society that really expects us to conform to certain things, especially if you're living in countries or cultures that have higher expectations essentially for how you're supposed to act or behave. It is a very freeing experience. The MBA was an experience that not only accelerated my career, but enabled me to achieve so much in my personal life. I made new lifelong friends, visited new places, above all, challenged my perceptions. It's like an OS update of sorts as well. If you're open to it, if that's kind of what you're looking for, right? Again, you got to be pretty intentional with some of these things too. So hopefully this decision-making tree will break down some of the factors if you're on the fence, right? Now we are going to hit up what else you will gain. Let's see what we got there. We got soft skills. Yep, we already talked about that. Structured thinking. This is interesting because structured thinking isn't necessarily formally taught. There are system thinking classes in MBAs and business school and stuff, but what it does is that every business school class generally has a framework of sorts. The way they teach is framework-based, case study-based. It's very structured, right? So you're just gonna get it organically, even just by going through the classes. So for example, if you're taking an organizational behavior course, right? They're gonna give you like these frameworks to think through how to analyze, I guess, like hierarchy or power dynamics and all this stuff like that. So that already, what they're teaching you is structured thinking and using frameworks to actually analyze a problem, right? And that's really helpful, especially if you're not coming from corporate strategy or consulting. And then you got commercial knowledge. So running a business, operations, this makes a lot of sense, right? Because if you're a doctor, for example, right, you don't know accounting, marketing, operations, strategy. These are not in your profession that's asked for, right? So this is a good opportunity to actually understand how businesses run 360. Global exposure to other high performers, industry leaders, and perspectives. Yeah, this is a huge one, right? This goes back to challenging perspectives because you're just surrounded by so many new people who have such different backgrounds compared to you. Right, dedicated immersive time to all of the above. This is really key. So we're gonna talk about this in the alternatives, of course, but having the ability to just fully immerse yourself. When I quit Niantic, hopped over to LBS with just 2 bags, that was exciting. That actually brought the adventure back into my life, right? It was like a fresh start in a new country or a new city, and all you have are the bags on your shoulders, right? You can't carry anything else with you. So there's something very freeing about that in our modern day of easy travel, you almost become jaded in terms of travel opportunities. So having this truly, I got a one-way ticket somewhere and I don't know when I'm gonna come back, maybe in 2 years, but who knows, right? That in itself is such a joy and an opportunity, a rare opportunity to have, right? Really to that, one of the responders said, MBA is like a buffet and it depends on what you want. MBA from a top university makes sense, otherwise avoid the MBA. Cost versus return does not make sense. I gotta agree with this one as well. Everything that we're saying up until now might be a bit biased too, because everybody I interviewed was from a top MBA, like a top 10 in the world, right? And if you're not in the top, let's say 15 or 20 of the programs out there, I wouldn't say it's worth the money that you're paying for. There's a lot of alternatives out there, right? We'll cover that next. But I have to say that the ROI does make sense still. Maybe, if you're getting it from a top school. All right, let's go into other factors. What this is this something that we want to consider, right? Like not necessary, but still useful. So my feedback on this is it's true, right? Like the jobs that require it, industry, consulting, and banking, these used to require MBAs to progress. Now a lot of them don't, right? And tech is on the rise, which is a total meritocracy in a lot of ways, with some politics, of course. And is it still useful? Yeah, for all the reasons we listed, like, structured thinking, leadership abilities, this resiliency, stress management. These are all things that's necessary for management, builds character as well, right? The soft skills actually matter more than the hard skills in a lot of ways with the MBA. Another one is other factors, top 5 management. This was a really good point. One of the responders actually took the time to, really list out some of the top companies out there in leadership. Today, we got Sundar at Google, MBA Wharton, Satya Nadella at Microsoft, CEO of Microsoft, right? Like, MBA Chicago Booth. We got Apple CEO Tim Cook, MBA Fuqua, that's Duke. And then Facebook's Sheryl Sandberg, MBA from Harvard. Amazon's CEO Andy Jass, MBA from Harvard. So it's pretty compelling if you think about it, right? What's interesting here is that these are not the founders. These are not the founders of these original tech firms. And all the other tech firms were basically a bookseller or dropout in a lot of ways. But they are leaders of established companies. What this tells us is that the MBA is really good for, running companies, running ships as the captain in a lot of ways. But it doesn't replace founders. I mean, of course, there's plenty of founders who are also MBAs. A lot of McKinsey consultants, for example, go on to become CEOs and founding their own companies, right? Because they're bright people. Smart people generally will make companies. But if you look at this pattern of CEOs and COOs having MBAs, it's a very interesting kind of like compelling thing too, thinking about management holistic, right? So these are all like pretty good reasons so far of going to the MBA. What are some of the cons, right? I mean, obviously the first one is cost. The cost is huge if you think about it. And the total cost of anything isn't just the raw cost of the MBA. It's actually the raw cost, basically all your expenses of paying for tuition, living, food, travel, having fun, going out, whatever. That's the raw cost of that's going out of your pocket. But you also have to add on the opportunity cost, the money that you could have been making, at your job that you had quit, right? So the MBA is actually really double whammy of cash going out as well as no cash coming in. Let's take a look at the raw cost first, right? And out of the survey, it really ranges between like 100K to 350K. I don't know how they got 100K. That's like the bargain bucket of MBAs. That's pretty crazy. But at the same time, like $350,000, holy crap, man! They must have had a lot of bottles with that one. The average is $200,000, right? That's the raw cost. It's tuition's gonna set you back around like 80 to 120, depending on conversion rates or whatever it is if you're abroad. But generally, it's going to be around 100K, and you're going to spend another 100K for room, board, and all the treks. They're not cheap, right? Obviously, the opportunity cost depends on your current and projected income streams, what you're making now, what you expect to make in 2 years, right? Or in a year or so. The total cost comes down to around like, let's say, $400,000. Half of which is from the raw cost, the other half is from the opportunity cost. And this is actually, roughly how much I spent for London Business School. So that covers cost. That definitely puts a dent on your pocket. It's like a mortgage, right? It's like buying a house, essentially. You're not getting a house, but you're getting a degree and a 2-year experience. We're gonna talk about alternatives now, because given it's not just the cost, right? It's like, how else can you gain what you might gain from an MBA, right? Because if you're able to do it with these alternatives a lot cheaper, it might just be worthwhile for you, Who knows? Let's go into the part-time MBA. This is by far the most mentioned or the most common alternative that was surveyed. But the consensus is that it is not the same. A full-time MBA, like I said, is like an adventure that you're going off of for 2 years or 1 or 2 years, depending on which school. Whereas a part-time MBA is like you're going to be definitely working and going to the MBA part-time on the weekends or in the evenings, right? What ends up happening is that it's generally 3 years because it takes a lot longer than full-time, and you're going to be slaving away. You're going to have no life for 3 years because it's either going to be school or it's going to be work, right? That's actually a huge barrier for really being immersed in the experience, like opening yourself truly to new opportunities, as well as truly to new relationships, right? And experiences, because you're always going to be distracted with work. You're going to have the stress of work as well as the stress and the distraction that is caused by the classes. So it's just not the same. Boot camps. So these are kind of like accelerated courses like General Assembly or coding boot camps that really prep, that like can turn a banker or just about anybody actually, into a code monkey or a coder, right? What that means then you can get a pretty high paying job at a tech firm as an engineer, right? Even the starting engineers are paid like 120K or so. It's kind of nuts, right? So the boot camps really rejig you real quick into a new profession. They're immersive 100% because they're typically like 2 to 3 months or so, and you're going to be doing nothing but learning design, learning code, learning product management, whatever it is that you're trying to learn, right? And then specific skill sets, you get a certification. Yep, it's almost like a degree of sorts. However, it is probably the network that these boot camps go off of. So a lot of the business model is interesting, right? There are boot camps in which you actually have to pay them, and then there are boot camps in which you actually pay like a lower fee or even free as long as you complete it. And their revenue model, their business model is that they actually get paid by the recruiting companies. If they hire you, the boot camps or the recruiting companies will get 20-30% of your annual salary. That's their revenue. You get a lot of recruiting help because the incentives and the business model is aligned in your favor, right? In the outcome of you getting hired. So if you're truly just trying to do a career switch, there's probably other ways to do it, like accelerated boot camps, online courses, and books. Yeah, so this is kind of like MOOCs, right? This is like Udemy or Udacity. Udacity is actually really cool because they now give like certifications, and they basically become like a boot camp of sorts, like online boot camp. You're paying a lot, but you're almost kind of like, you can get really plugged into their hiring network. And then we have meetups and professional organizations. So this is super viable for networking and leadership skills. And this is exactly what I did before going to LBS. So while I was working at Google and Niantic, I was one of the co-organizers for a meetup called Silicon Valley Entrepreneurs, or SVE. This is like organization of 30,000 people. And we used to just plan these huge hackathons, pitch and demo days, investor days, workshops. And it was such a good way of getting to know the startup ecosystem, startups, founders, supports, investors, as well as running teams for large-scale events. This actually really set me up, I think, when I went to London too, when I started organizing stuff, right? So I think these are opportunities for both of these. And of course, if you're out there and you're setting up things, right, you're gonna be exposed to a lot of really experienced people who are willing to help and who are willing to mentor you when you really need it. Sabbaticals and travel. Okay, so this might actually be a little bit hard depending on where you are and stuff. I feel like it's becoming more accepted to take sabbaticals off of work, especially when you've been working for a few years with the same company, right? Even if you have been bouncing around and stuff, I think taking some time off and reflecting is really, really important. It could just be like a few weeks to a few months, right? Personal development and friendships. So I personally have taken 3 sabbaticals total of around, each of them were around 6 months or so. And they have been truly transformational in my personal and professional development in different ways, right? So highly recommend that. Here's the other kicker, which is, $400,000 can be a lot of travel, right? It's kind of nuts for how long you can travel with $400,000. Just keep that in mind, right? That's the opportunity cost of going to MBA. And then we got internships and startups. Yeah, they're pretty hard to do when you're not just completely off of the grind, right? And being able to focus on the internship or even like jumping into it. It's kind of awkward to be interning for one company and then working full-time for another. There might also be conflict of interest and all that. So yeah, it's just like, you wouldn't want to take on those things until you feel like you're ready to jump. Start your own company. This one's really good. Necessity is really truly the best teacher, right? Necessity and constraints, they really do make you stronger. So you don't really need to go MBA to learn business. You can just make a business and then you can learn on the fly. And these days, if you're actually creating, let's say, a tech startup, it's a little bit different because then you can get into accelerators with all their network and successes like Y Combinator and Techstars. There's a saying that it's actually, or maybe it used to be, right? Getting a YC kind of place is more prestigious than a Stanford MBA. There was a saying, I think, a few years back. So that's kind of the degree that I think, especially the tech industry, puts on meritocracies versus degrees, right? The degrees still matter, especially from a top school, but it's about what you bring to the table. The thing is, starting your own company, like, if it were easy, everybody would be doing it, right? So it's definitely not for everybody. If you're not going to be an entrepreneur, you're not really suited for it or whatever, personality-wise or whatever it is, not for everybody, and that's totally fine. We need people to work for companies rather than starting companies too, right? Too many chefs, not enough cooks. Or you can just continue working. That's another alternative. And maybe, you'll get promoted, maybe things will change, maybe keep on working, right? Is it a viable alternative? 100%. That, however, is interesting, right? So all of these components, a part-time MBA all the way down to the internships and startups, they're not a substitute for the networking experience. So the knowledge that I like to make is that, when you're learning a new topic, let's say you're trying to become like a YouTuber, right? You can either, read a bunch of blogs, watch a bunch of videos, right? And then try to piece together a strategy to do it. Or you can take like a course or something like that, or a program through an experienced YouTuber, then that gives you all the tools essentially and saves you a lot of time, right? That's a premium experience that you're paying for. One option is free, you can still get it, but you're gonna spend a lot of time, and energy and focus in order to even compile in the first place. Or you buy a book or a program and then it gives you that premium experience and saves you a lot of time. And there's also experience, right? It's not just time, but it's the full-time experience that's really a differentiator. But yeah, those are essentially everything that I really want to cover today. My goal for this video was to give you a sense of where other people have come from. Pretty decent sample set of people who have graduated from the very top programs, what they are looking forward to when they were in school, and the things that they feel like are important in their life choices. If this has resonated with you or has been helpful, definitely give this video a like or subscribe or even share with a friend, right? If they're on the fence and it's causing them some anxiety or whatever it is, let's take a look at a decision tree, right? Where do they sit on it? Anyways, thanks a lot for watching, and I hope to see you very soon. Take care. Bye now.